Warning: the content in this video may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey YouTube, Jim here. Welcome to Top 10 Archive. Whether during times of war or as a means of discovery, researchers and scientists have often turned to using their fellow man as lab rats in grotesque experiments. We've explored the cruelty of people in prior archives, and we're diving even deeper with the 10 most evil experiments performed on other humans. As we get started, help us out by hitting that like button, and be sure to leave us a comment because we're always looking to engage in interesting conversations with you. Also, don't forget to click the bell so you get notified every time we put out a new video. Number 10. Milgram Shock Experiment. In 1963, Stanley Milgram sought to gauge just how obedient people could be, basing his idea off of the Nazis that claimed that they were just following orders. 40 participants were gathered and charged with shocking a third party whenever they answered a question incorrectly that was posed by Milgram. Though the person being shocked was an actor and no harm was being done, the subjects believed they were administering up to 450 volts of electricity, especially as the recipient was a rather convincing performer and begged for reprieve. Though 35% stopped when the voltage was at its max, all 40 subjects heeded Milgram's orders up to 300 volts. While no physical harm was done to anyone, Milgram's experiment is criticized for the mental anguish placed upon the subjects who responded as Milgram told them what they had to do. Number 9. Stanford Prison Experiment. Looking to test the effects of assigned social roles on a personality, psychologist Philip Zimbardo designed a mock prison in the basement of the Stanford University Psychology Building, complete with solitary confinement, and assigned 21 male students in one of two roles, either as a prisoner or a guard. The experiment started with the prisoners being arrested at their homes without warning and taken through the booking process before being held in the prison basement. Only hours into the planned 2-week trial, the mock prison guards started to show signs of aggression and sadism towards the prisoners. By day 2, prisoners were blocking their cells with mattresses, causing guards to break in, strip the prisoners naked, and remove their beds. Within 3 days, one prisoner had to be removed after showing signs of deep depression, and after another 3 showed signs of depression, the experiment was terminated. Number 8. Project MKUltra. Starting as early as 1953 and running until 1967, the Central Intelligence Agency had a program in place that tested the possibility of mind control and brainwashing. The agency sought to create means to disorient and confuse enemies, hypnotize subjects, and even induce amnesia. Many of the tests done during MKUltra's lifespan were performed on lower-class citizens and included the administration of LSD, sometimes leading to the death of the subject. Research for the program stretched over 86 different universities and institutions, each one ultimately working towards the same goal and using the same unethical methods. Other experiments were believed to have used electroshock, heroin, sodium pentothal, and a combination of barbiturates and amphetamines, which typically produced incoherent babbling from the subject. Number 7. The Guatemalan Experiments. In October of 2010, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton apologized to the nation of Guatemala for a 1940s epidemic of gonorrhea and syphilis that spread through its people. In an attempt to find and test a measure to prevent the disease from spreading throughout its own military force, the United States sent Dr. John Charles Cutler of the Public Health Service to intentionally introduce the diseases to the Guatemalan military. After seeing success with soldiers, Cutler moved to penitentiaries and psychiatric hospitals where he continued to spread syphilis and gonorrhea. By the time Cutler was done, upwards of 1,308 subjects were infected, and of them, only 678 received follow-up treatment. Number 6. The Aversion Project. During South Africa's apartheid, there was one group in particular that was pinpointed as being curable. Thought to be subversive and identified as drug users, identified homosexuals in the South African Defense Forces were forced to undergo a series of medical torture and experiments to remedy their alleged affliction. Heading the aversion therapy was Dr. Aubrey Levin, who resorted to electroshock, barbiturates, hormone treatment, and even chemical castration on known homosexual soldiers. Subjects were shown naked images of the same sex, shocked until their bodies couldn't handle anymore, and then shown a naked image of a member of the opposite sex. When met with criticism, Levin claimed that these treatments could work on other groups, including drug addicts. In 2014, Levin was sentenced to 5 years in prison for sexually assaulting patients over the years. Number 5. Cancer Treatment Experiments. During the 1960s, Dr. Eugene Sanger of the University of Cincinnati spearheaded experiments allegedly funded by the Pentagon that tested high levels of radiation on cancer patients, most of them being poor and black. Critics of the experiments claimed they were held to test how soldiers would respond to nuclear battlefields, but Sanger claims it was meant to determine radiation effects on advanced cancer patients. Regardless, a staggering majority of the patients reacted negatively to the 100 rads of total body irradiation, becoming violently ill shortly after. By 1972, it's believed all of Sanger's patients had died. Around the same time, Dr. Carl Heller was testing 650 rads of radiation on the testicles of U.S. prisoners, essentially just to see what would happen. For reference, a standard X-ray exposes patients to less than 1 rad. Number 4. The Twins of World War II. During the course of World War II, German physician Josef Mengele earned the title the Angel of Death through his cruel and deplorable experiments. Of his more controversial were those he dedicated to twins. Like some twisted Dr. Frankenstein, Mengele was known to turn pairs of twins into abominations. 2 twins that survived the experience, Eva and Miriam, talk about gypsy children that were sewn back to back. Allegedly, Mengele had tried to create Siamese twins by conjoining blood vessels and organs. Other experiments involved injecting hundreds of pairs of twins with Noma disease-causing bacteria and injecting an unknown substance into the hearts of some just to dissect them after they died. Number 3. North Korean Experiments. When M. Chung-young, former Pyongyang Armed Forces officer, defected from North Korea, he did so with information that further shows the darker side of the East Asian country. According to M., human experimentation was a regular occurrence in North Korea, specifically performed on prisoners and mentally and physically handicapped children. M and other defectors have alleged that handicapped children are not forcibly taken, but purchased from their parents for grains of rice. Of the experiments M was alleged to have evidence of, the worst included experimental dissection and live testing of anthrax and dozens of other chemical weaponry agents. Number 2. Dr. Shiro Ishii and Unit 731. By 1945, Dr. Shiro Ishii went from being a Japanese microbiologist to a renowned Surgeon General whose path was marred with blood and human suffering. During the last 3 years of World War II, Ishii oversaw operations at Unit 731, an experimental POW camp which became the site of grotesque procedures. Thousands of victims were enlisted as Ishii's subjects and exposed to tests that involved being shot, having limbs frostbitten, and being placed in high-pressure chambers or centrifuges. Others were dehydrated to near death, had organs partially removed, and became monstrosities sewn back together for the sake of cruel science. Dr. Ishii also released plague bombs on Chinese cities to test the effectiveness of a planned attack on the western coast of the United States. Number 1. Nazi War Experiments. Nazis don't often get praise for their sparkling and kind mannerisms, and for good reason. While Nazi soldiers fought on the front line, other party members were using their expertise in incredibly sadistic ways, performing unimaginable experiments on POWs. Like Mengele's twins test, other Nazi doctors and researchers used subjects to experiment with different poisons, including the use of poison bullets, testing the effects of high altitudes in low-pressure chambers only to kill those that didn't die, and testing different means of treating wartime wounds, including blood coagulation, which requires subjects to be unwillingly injured. Experiments were typically carried out at concentration camps on populations of Romani, or Gypsies, Soviet POWs, and of course, Jews, by Nazi physicians including Eduard Wirths, Adolf Picorni, Wolfram Sievers, and Sigmund Rascher. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, and click the bell to get notified about our next new video.